Welcome to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary M. And today we're going to be talking to Rebecca Binstock, who's the Executive Director of the North Dakota Ethics Commission. Have to do a lot of politics. There's citizens a while back voted this in effect, and there's a lot of things swirling around about an annual report they've come up, but also just what do they do, who are they, and why are people not, going to jail for doing something bad or whatever. So we're going to try to drill down on that a little bit, and then we're also going to get a healthy living tip by Dr. Jake Schmitz. So Rebecca, welcome to Open Range.
Well, thank you for having me on, Gary. It's nice to be here.
So before we dig into the Ethics Commission and what your job is and all that's going on with that, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So as you said, my name is Rebecca Binstock, and I am originally from Bismarck. I grew up in Bismarck, went away, went to school. I did go to the University of Minnesota for my undergraduate degree, but I also then went to law school up at UND and worked in the federal system for a while and came over to the state system. I started with the Ethics Commission in September of 2022, I believe. I always mark things by my kids' birthdays, and that's how I tend to remember that date. So that's just a little bit about me.
So you're an attorney then, and you went to law school, and now you're in the Ethics Commission, and you deal with when there's ethics complaints, there's all these slicing and dicing of words, just like passing the law in a bill, right? And he said, she said, whatever. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about, so that background you have obviously helps and plays a part in understanding the moral code that goes with someone that would serve in office and the Ethics Commission. Talk a little bit about when it was formed. You came, as you said, in 22. The citizens actually put this in play, I think it was about 2018 or so. So they passed, and there was a lot of complaining in North Dakota that, we're good old clean, nobody does anything bad here. And I'm not saying there were a bunch of criminals or anything like that, but there is something about wanting to hold elected officials to a standard. And talk to us a little bit about who falls underneath your purview, if you will, that you're wanting to say, these are the people. In other words, someone's going to complain about Gary's bad talk show host. I hope they don't.
Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me.
Yeah, don't complain on me. But is it just elected officials, and how does that play out as far as the role in the Ethics Commission? What it does?
So that's a really good question, Gary. And so if we look back at in 2018, the voters put the Ethics Commission into place. But that was in November of 2018. And then we had our legislative session in 2019, and there were some parameters laid out by the legislature that year. And our commissioners weren't appointed until late 2019. So the first chance, I believe their first meeting was in September of 2019. And I didn't come on for quite a few years later, but those first few years were really trying to get the organization going. And complaints started coming in. They started trickling in 2019 against the individuals who I'll talk about briefly. And then those really started to uptick in October of 2022. That's when we started to get a number of complaints coming in, a significant number. So, what does that mean, right? What does it mean to have a complaint, and who can bring something to the Ethics Commission, or what can we look into? So the Ethics Commission was established as a state entity, meaning that we only have authority, or I guess investigative authority, or jurisdiction is the fancy legal word, over statewide elected officials. So that's going to be our governor, Secretary of State, Ag Commissioner, and then we also have jurisdiction over legislators. We have jurisdiction over lobbyists, and then it also includes anybody who is appointed to serve in an executive branch agency. So that might be a director, it might be a deputy director, but anybody who is appointed in the executive branch. The individuals who we don't have jurisdiction over are local individuals who are serving on a school board, or if they are part of a county commission. The Ethics Commission's jurisdiction does not extend to those individuals. However, we do get a number of calls about local issues that do pop up, particularly with conflicts of interest that happen in North Dakota. So that's our scope.
So I think the governor at one point, I remember, he appoints people to like 1,700 people to all these various boards. Would that fall underneath the purview?
Yes. So that's a great question.
All those other ones.
Yes.
Okay.
So anybody who's appointed to serve on a licensing board or a A licensing board is probably the best example. So you have the board who license occupational therapists or doctors in our state, engineers. All of those individuals are appointed by the governor, and so they fall under the jurisdiction of the Ethics Commission.
So what becomes, so obviously it was formed, the voters passed it in. There was a lot of out-of-state interest in it, and as a conservative, a lot of people said, well, that was just the left wanting to come after a Republican state, and they targeted these Republican states. I don't know if that was fact or fiction, but that was kind of the chatter out in the perimeter. But all of a sudden, the Ethics Commission, citizens said, hey, it needs to be dealt with, so you have to do it. Legislature then funds it to some degree. We'll talk about that a little bit further. But I mean, what becomes your standard? I mean, do you go to the 10 Commandments in the Old Testament? Do you go to something Minnesota does? I mean, where do you come up with this grid that you would say this is, or doesn't fit?
So that's a great question, Gary. Again, you're full of good questions today. So when we talk about what rules we should have for public officials, right? Our guidepost is the language of the Constitution. And so it says it directs that the Commission can adopt ethics rules related to transparency, corruption, elections, and lobbying. We call those our 4 buckets. The Commission has adopted rules to date that govern lobbying in the state, govern conflicts of interest, and what we call quasi-judicial proceedings. That is a very legal term. I apologize for using it, but it's basically those licensing procedures, or if you have some sort of hearing before the PSC or the Industrial Commission, those are all governed by those rules. And so how do we develop what those are? Well, thankfully, we have 47 other states who have state ethics commissions, and we can look and see what ethics rules they have passed, and then we can mirror those. So we call our sister ethics commission the New Mexico Ethics Commission because it was passed by the voters in New Mexico the same month that the North Dakota Ethics Commission was put in. And so that's one of the ethics commissions that we look at. And we look at what other rules should there be to provide voters of North Dakota information about the people that they are voting into office and that they who are making decisions on their behalf in state government. So you talked about a board. How big is your staff? I mean, because I think of 1,700 people the governor appoints. You got 47 senators, you got 94 House members, you got all the elected. I mean, and so I'm just complaining about that legislator, and I send it to you. I mean, you have to do something with it. I mean, what kind of staffing do you have to be able to deal with it? I mean, some of them are frivolous, obviously, because people have an axe to grind. I don't like what they made the decision on, but that affects me personally. But what kind of staffing do you have, and how do you deal with those opportunities, if you will, that you have to deal with? Yes. So if we look at, first of all, the commission consists of 5 individuals. Now, those individuals are not in the office on a daily basis. Most of them have other jobs that they do. They're part of their community, or they are individuals who retired who have really developed a good ethical sense based on their professional experiences through life. And so we have 5 commissioners. They meet monthly, usually for a day, and they are the ones that make the decisions. They are the ones that adopt rules. They are the ones that do the decision making. But what we have as far as a staff is concerned to support those 5 commissioners, we have myself as executive director. We have an in-house general counsel that is full-time. And then we have an operations administrator. So when we do get those complaints, Gary, that you talked about that come in, there's really 2 individuals who are dealing with those. That is the general counsel and myself as executive director. So you mentioned the number of people we oversee. We've estimated, and we've worked with the governor's office, I think we oversee approximately 3,000 individuals in the state at the state level. And we have two individuals with a legal background to do that, myself and our general counsel. Our operations administrator really focuses on the day-to-day things, procurement, making sure that everything is, all our travel vouchers are done, those sorts of administrative type things. So we have a very small staff. We do also utilize contract attorneys. So we do engage, I think we've done maybe 3 or 4 different attorneys throughout the state that we have on a contract basis that we pay hourly to help us deal with complaints, because we've had such an uptick in complaints over the last few years.
What kind of budget does your agency have? Do you know offhand?
Well, I have the appropriation.
That's perfect. That'd be perfect.
Let me
I'd
look.
like to know that, because I'd be just curious, because it just seems like, I mean, that's a big job. And just to have research and to be, because if it's a complaint, you don't just get to go like, I mean, you don't get to call the Attorney General's office and tap into their resources, Bureau of Criminal Investigations. I mean,
no, in fact, we can't use BCI.
You can't.
We cannot. There's a specific, because we deal with civil issues, not criminal violations. There's a really big distinction for that.
Explain that. Give me the 30-second on that, and then we're going to go to the break.
So, so an Ethics Commission violation is really a civil proceeding. It's not a criminal prosecution. And so we do have the ability to criminally refer something to a state's attorney or to the U.S. Attorney's Office if we need to. But primarily, we are dealing with a civil action, and it's against somebody in their personal capacity. So it's more akin to a civil proceeding. You get sued by your neighbor for trespass or something. Then it is a criminal violation. And then there is a penalty associated with that in some instances, not all instances. So that's a really big distinction.
That is a very important.
It's a very important
We're going to pick up on that when we come back. So we've been talking to Rebecca Binstock, Executive Director of North Dakota Ethics Commission. I'm your host, Gary Amon. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Stop out to our facility, Highway 22 South. Let us build a truck for you.
Hello and welcome to the MHA Interpretive Center. It's the perfect stop along the Lewis and Clark Trail and the cultural hub of the Mandan, Hiraadza, and Arikara Nation. Nestled along the shores of Lake Sagagawea in Newtown, North Dakota, 1 mile west of the Four Bears Casino. You can enjoy amphitheater performances, art exhibitions, and educational workshops utilizing our living cultural center. Enjoy some coffee, browse our gift shop, and learn about the original people of this land. Learn more at mhanation.com/interpretive center.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.
Home on the Range offers a nurturing place for teens who may have just come from an unsafe or traumatic environment. Here, they receive therapy and education services centered around animals, and the surrounding nature provides opportunities for work, fun, and healing. Life skills learned at Home on the Range are carried with residents when they return to the community with new talents and a greater appreciation for themselves and others.
Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary. I'm going to talk to Rebecca Binstock, the Executive Director of the North Dakota Ethics Commission. Rebecca, before the break, we just started making a distinction between civil and criminal, and I think there's some confusion in that because help our viewers get a little better clarity on that because, I mean, sometimes people say, well, that person, I mean, if we just take the Jason Doctor situation, which was fairly high-profile public out there, people refer similar things and use that as maybe an analysis of where there's a line and there isn't a line.
Yeah, so the difference between the civil and the criminal. So the commission, as I said before the break, we look at a civil violation. So for instance, Jason Doctor, Representative Doctor, excuse me, he was prosecuted criminally. That was a referral that the Ethics Commission made. It had there's a specific standard that the commission looks at and determines if there is enough that has been presented during the commission's investigation that it needs to refer something criminally. And we're not saying at that point that somebody has committed a crime. We're just saying it is out of our area of expertise and it needs to be reviewed either by a state's attorney, by the Attorney General's office, or by the U.S. Attorney's Office, depending on who has jurisdiction over that issue. So that specifically with Representative Doctor, he did have that criminal prosecution that happened. But after that criminal prosecution happened, that matter still came back to the Ethics Commission, and the commission proceeded then to have a civil finding or an ethical finding that they ended up finding with Representative Doctor.
So when you actually have it's criminal, it comes back, there's really no, I don't want to say the word's not fair to say there's no teeth in it because there's still the court of public opinion. So if someone ethically violates something, it can become part of the mantra for them to have to get elected. That's the good thing about our system. But the Ethics Commission plays a much different role than I think perception from people.
Yeah, so that's actually really important because really one of the roles of the commission, in fact, one of its biggest roles is to provide information to the voters. And that was included in the constitutional provision. It's included in our mission statement. And so, yes, Representative Doctor, for instance, he didn't have any penalty associated with that. But the commission found that he violated an ethical rule. He had a conflict of interest when he voted on certain bills. However, there are certain ethical violations that do have a financial penalty that do attach to those. So there is still those teeth in that. But when we talk about the Ethics Commission having teeth, it really comes down to a relationship between the Ethics Commission providing information, accurate information, to voters and them then being able to make those decisions with that information.
You can see where it would be politicized because so often it's a Democrat challenging a Republican or vice versa. You see that on the national level maybe, and so you don't necessarily see that here because they're pretty much all Republicans. But I've been a little critical of my Republican friends at the legislature where I just felt they haven't funded it to the tune because there's been, statements that North Dakota is not very clean. We got all kinds of problems ethically in the way we do politics, And people go, well, I don't know. I know Joe and I know Susie, and they're not, But it seems like we just don't spend any money. And so legislatures, sometimes I think the legislators set themselves up for the fact that they don't fund it appropriately to support what you're doing. So talk about that budget. Now, I'm critical.
Oh, man.
That's a statement I'm making, so I'm not putting the words in your mouth. But
I tend to not be critical, but there's actually a lot to break down there, right?
Please,
and what
go
you
for
just
it.
said, Gary, because you mentioned the fact that we know our legislators on a very personal basis, right? They might live down the street from you. You might know them from your golf league or from your book club. And we have that benefit in our state that we know them very personally. So we think, I think Senator Devers says it perfectly, or he says, we really like to think well of the legislator that represents us, but then we get this mind or this collective about the legislature at whole that maybe looks different, right, than our personal interaction. So I always like when he says that. It's a good little nugget. But when it comes to national scorecards with ethics in North Dakota, we do tend to score lower than most other states. And the reason is because we don't have protections or we don't have checks in place. And a lot of that comes from a lack of, not a lot, some of it comes from a lack of funding and the fact that we do have a small appropriation and then we also have a small staff. So we have small resources. So if we go back, I have the data. So in 2019, the legislature appropriated $517,000 for the Ethics Commission. In 2021, they appropriated $623,000. And if you think about the state budget, this is a very, very small portion.
Not even a rounding error.
Nope. In 2023, it did increase almost double. It went up to $1,138,000. And a lot of that was due to the fact that we had an increasing caseload and we needed to bring in attorneys to do the work. And so we either needed to contract that out or we needed to have an attorney on staff. And so that was that big ask, or that was filled. And if we look at our 25-27 current biennium, we're at a little under 1.4 million. And so there has been an increase in appropriations, but I'll tell you, during the 21-23 legislative session, we almost ran out of money. You know, had we not gotten emergency funding from the legislature, we would not have made it through the biennium with that amount of money. And so we did request this last legislative session, we did request an additional FTE. That FTE was going to focus on education so that we could then take our attorney time, our investigator time, and really get working through all the complaints that we have. But the legislature did not pass that. So we are stuck with our same level of staffing through the current biennium, and we're going to see what happens this next legislative session.
So they really choose not to fund it. I know there was a lot of animosity when it was passed in 2018. A lot of legislators spoke against it. We don't have a problem, and it was, and I just recall the energy by legislators to push back, and it made them look bad. And I mean, and to not be able to have at least a department to be able to fund it, that doesn't, you know, I think it's bad for them related to the perception to the average voter out there. And what is the board of 5 members? Are they appointed by the governor?
So that's an interesting question. So they're appointed by the governor, consensus agreement between the governor, Senate Majority Leader, and Senate Minority Leader. So you have to have those 3 individuals who are currently Governor Armstrong, Leader Hogue, and Leader Hogan all have to agree on the individuals who are appointed. And the individuals who are appointed to serve on the commission, they cannot be a lobbyist, they can't be another elected official, they can't be a political party leader, right? They have certain standards that they have to meet for nonpartisan. Really, we want individuals who are able to critically think and be independent, right? So, but that's how those individuals are appointed.
How many complaints do you have? In other words, you said you had a spike in 23. Like how many complaints came to you in 2023 that you had to deal with?
Yeah, so if we look at the data, prior to October of 2022, the commission had only received 16 complaints. So over, you know, I don't quote my math, but from 2019 to 2022, there was only 16 complaints. It was very bare minimum. Most of those were dismissed very quickly, and one of them was informally resolved. So there really wasn't a lot there. In October, just in the month of October of 2022, I believe we received 12 complaints. I can't remember exactly. So it just
put it with an election. So it's October 22.
Yeah.
So sometimes people go, it's political. Okay.
Yep.
October,
and so
that's
then
a month before the election.
So in 2022, we received 14 complaints. In 2023, we had 15. In 2024, we had 41. And then by 2025, as of the day of our annual report, we had 74 complaints.
Wow, 74 in 2025?
Yes, and we're not obviously all the way through 2025.
And so how many get dismissed quickly, in other words? And talk to us about that for the viewer to understand, what that means. In other words, are you guys doing your job, kind of thing?
Yes, so that's always a good question, right? Are we doing our job? So we do get, and there's a characterization that complaints are frivolous. I don't particularly care for that characterization only because it's usually a citizen bringing a concern to the commission. Is it outside of our jurisdiction? Probably, sometimes it is. A good majority of the complaints that we do get are outside of our jurisdiction or are really just more of a moral code type thing than they are necessarily an ethical violation. And we try to get rid of those as quickly as we can because we don't want those hanging over individuals' heads. So if we look at over the span of the Ethics Commission, so from 2019 up until June 30th of 2025, which is the date of our annual report, we're able to get rid of those complaints that are outside the Commission's jurisdiction that we can look at and we can say, yep, we need to get rid of this. We also still need to notify the individual who it's filed against, but we do tend to get rid of those. I believe we got rid of those in 29 days. So we are able to get rid of those fairly quickly. And one of the reasons it takes 29 days is because as executive director, I present those to the commission and I ask them to summarily dismiss those. I do have statutory authority to get rid of those on my own, but I feel that in an effort of transparency, it's better to have the commission doing it than me. I was not appointed by the governor or the Senate majority and the Senate minority leaders. I am an employee, so it should fall to them. However, there are instances where we need to go and corroborate evidence. We need to make sure that somebody isn't appointed, right? When we talk about those executive branch employees, we need to make sure maybe that what the complainant is bringing to us is not accurate because sometimes, facts get wishy-washy, let's call it. So if we need to go and corroborate, it takes closer to 70 days to get rid of those. So, and keep in mind, it is two individuals who are going out and doing this.
That's crazy when you think of the limited staffing. We're going to go to the break. When we come back, I want to dig into this annual report so you can get the viewers to get their mind around what the implications are of this and the resources required. So we've been talking to Rebecca Binstock, Executive Director of North Dakota Ethics Commission. I'm your host, Gary Emina. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Binstock Trailers of Dickinson is a family-owned dealer with expert staff that know their products front to back. We stock over 150 units of all types and can custom order a trailer with the unique features and capabilities you require for brands you can trust. Our experienced service team is the reason we're also the best place to have your trailer customized or repaired. Count on Binstock Trailers of Dickinson to keep you hauling.
Are you looking for something special or one of a kind? At Bassett Motors, we can help you find exactly what you want.
Come on in and experience how small-town hospitality and personal service can make car buying a pleasure.
We know interest rates are important to you. We have multiple lenders to negotiate your lowest payment.
Visit us on Highway 281 in Carrington, North Dakota, and online at BassettMotors.com. Bassett Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Yeah, U.S. Cattlemen is a member organization that each member has a vote in anything we do with policy. We're representing the independent cattleman or the cow-calf guy or an independent feeder or whatever. We like to support the independent producer. We're talking about mandatory ID, we're talking about COOL, we're talking about all the legislation that's going to be coming down with the new administration. There's going to be lots of moving and shaking, so always check us out at our website, uscattleman.org.
I'm $27,000 in credit card debt.
Okay.
You have to radically do something different, because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting.
Now's not the time to be doing math. The time to be doing math was when we didn't go under $200,000 of debt.
If you are freaked out and you're stuck in these debt payments and you think it has to be a part of your life, it doesn't.
We're
the Ladies of Another View. Join us at 9 a.m. weekday mornings.
We'll discuss issues you care about from local and national perspectives.
You'll hear unique stories from fellow North Dakotans, plus topics in the national spotlight.
Start your day off right with Ladies of Another View.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Beck TV and online at beck.news.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary Emnett, talking to Rebecca Binstock, the Executive Director of North Dakota Ethics Commission. So, Rebecca, you have an annual report that just came out, like just a week or so ago. Or
Yep.
Anyway,
2 weeks.
last few weeks.
It's about 2 weeks, yep.
So talk to us a little bit about what you want the viewers to understand, what's in there, what matters, and why it's important to have this.
Well, do you want me to take the whole time that
All
I have
the time.
now?
You take, it's all yours.
So the whole purpose of the annual report is really to provide the citizens of North Dakota with kind of this is what we've been doing, this is what we do, and this is what some of the information, some of the data that we have based on our work. And so if you look through the annual report, it first gives you an overview of what the commission is, what its scope is, who serves on the commission, who are the individuals who are making these decisions, and then it gets into the nitty-gritty statistics specifically of complaints that we get. Those are individuals who bring something to our attention. And then it also talks about disclosures that are required under Ethics Commission rules and how we have gotten those in, or what those numbers look like over the past, we really go from 2019 through June 30th of 2025. So there is a pretty big range. You can see right now you have our complaints. You can see how that number just drastically increases. Then we also have what we call our disclosures. So whenever there is a conflict of interest that somebody declares in our state for public officials, they need to disclose that to the commission. And so we have those on our website, but they're also included in our annual report. And then we also have when that happens in a quasi-judicial bias proceeding. So when that happens, and then the other thing that we do talk about is, I'm not sure if we include it in the annual report, but you can find it on our website, is meeting notices. So when a lobbyist does meet with a legislator or another public official, that information is then available on our website. So you can go and see who is meeting, what they're doing, how much they're spending, etc.
So walk me through that again. So what exactly did you just say?
Oh, yes, so meeting notices.
So if a legislator is having lunch with a lobbyist?
Well,
or is this more like an official published meeting?
Yep, so there are 3 types of kind of interactions that individuals in North Dakota can have with our public officials, and they can, and it's under our lobbyist gifting rule, right? Because under the Constitution, anybody who's trying to influence government decisions is precluded from giving a gift or anything of value to a public official. But there are some instances that the commission allows it. And really those are educational settings, right? When you are providing a presentation or you're doing, you're educating legislators on an important issue. And so in those instances, when you are providing a gift, mostly food and drink, right? Those are what's permissible. Then you have to file a meeting requirement with the commission. And so we receive those on a daily basis from entities and organizations all across the state, and we post those to our website so that individuals know who is spending, who is interacting with our public officials. Now, if you go and sit down and have lunch with a legislator or another public official, those do not require meeting notices, but those are also capped on the amount that individuals can spend.
And what is that cap? Because
Yes.
I'm going to give you my scenario. I used to say this all the time. If what they should do is have a chart at the beginning of the legislative session. This legislator weighs this today. This is what he weighs at the end of the session. We're going to get them all on a scale together and add them up. And I used to say, those guys sell out so cheap for a cheap bottle of wine. So that was always my gripe to them.
Yeah.
So there's a limit. You're saying
there is a limit. There is a limit.
It never used to be, though.
There
it never used to be.
Nope, not before the commission came into existence. There was not a limit. And so now there is. It is $10 $10. $10.
You can't even get to McDonald's for $10.
I know. So that is something that the commission is looking at updating, that dollar amount.
I think you got to go at least 30.
We got to go at least. I was thinking like 20. But how they reached the $10 limit, this was not my decision. Mind you, the previous executive director walked down to the Capitol cafeteria and figured out how much it would cost to get a sandwich, a soda, and a bag of chips. And it was at that point, back in 2019, 2020, it was under $10. Does that number need to be updated? Yes, the commission is well aware of that. And so I anticipate
can it
that
include
will,
alcohol?
It actually can. That's another question that we get.
So you got to have a bottle of wine. So in other words, my glass of wine's got to be, you got to
It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be the low $6, whatever it is. Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but that's what it is. And it has to be consumed at the time. You can't take things with you. That is a question that we get. Can we take the leftover bottle of wine with us? No, you cannot.
$10 doesn't get you much. I'd leave
$10 doesn't get you much. So anyway, so there are those sorts of things, but we do have those meeting notices that get filed for those.
So,
yes.
So those are on your website, so you can look at any time. That's to identify all elected officials and the different, whether it's the oil industry or the, the old guys like me, whatever that group is that takes care of all the old people stuff. So
sure.
it identifies all of that. So there, we have that up on the screen. So you can look at that. And if I have a question, then I can reach out and ask, or to the lobbyist group or the association or Ethics Commission.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you can see the form, and it has most of the information. What we don't do is we don't include what public officials are at the event, just for. That's more of a security concern than anything.
So. Okay, let's go back to the report. I don't want to run out of time here.
Yeah, the other thing we talk about in our annual report is advisory opinions that the commission issues. So under legislation passed in 2021, the Ethics Commission issues advisory opinions, and the scope of those advisory opinions is on Ethics Commission rules or statutes in the Century Code related to elections, lobbying, transparency, and corruption. And so in the annual report, we give a brief of the advisory opinions that the Commission has issued through June 30th of 2025. Since June 30th, the Commission has also issued a number of advisory opinions. And so this is just one of our other operational highlights. This is something that we do that, a lot of the public doesn't realize that we actually do. And so that also is not a constitutional directive of the Commission. That was put in place by statute in 2021. And that was really done in an effort to help public officials understand rules. Other ethics commissions across the country do this on a very regular basis.
Well, and I think I recall during the legislative session, you had some workshop with legislators, because they do need to understand it, because the laws change, your regulations change. And so that's part of your point, is you do education, and getting your expensive attorney to not do it would be better than getting...
It would be much better to have somebody who has a background in education doing it. I do quite a bit of the education, only because I do have a master's in education, so it seems fitting. But my time also needs to be focused on complaints and dealing with those sorts of things. So that's why we asked the legislature for an educator specifically to do that. Now, even without an educator, over the course of, I'm going to give you the dates, from January 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2025. So about a year and a half, we conducted 49 educational sessions across the state.
Wow.
And they were attended by an estimated 1,100 North Dakota residents.
Wow.
And those were for lobbyists, public officials, citizens of North Dakota, any organization. We go and we talk to the Lions Club or the Rotary Club. Anybody who wants to learn about what the Ethics Commission does, we will go and we'll either do an online presentation or we will go talk to them about what we do. So that is really a core component of what the Commission does, because if we have ethical decisions ahead of time, right, our public officials, if they know what is a yes and what is a no,
they want to know which line they
want to know.
Fair enough. And
yes, and we understand that. And so if we could have somebody who's really focused on that, that would take some of our time, and refocus it on complaints. Now, unfortunately, because the legislature didn't fund an education position, that really has fallen off our priority list this year because of just the sheer number of complaints that we need to get through and that we need to get investigations done on.
Well, I would think that they would want to be more educated and be more informed, because there's nothing like being blindsided. And I would think that, anyway, that's who am I to say. So what else do you have in your report? Before I'm going to ask you the last question I want you to answer is, if someone's out there and they want to file a complaint, I mean, what is the process? But if you got a little bit more to report, I want to finish up there. But I do want to get that out for the viewers.
Well, I think that's really important, Gary. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
So if you have something that you think needs to come to the Ethics Commission, there's a conflict of interest, there's a lobbyist gift, something, or you're just not sure, right? The Commission accepts complaints really in any form, a phone call, an email. We do have a form that you can fill out on our website, which is ethicscommission.nd.gov. You can find the little frowny face. I don't know if you can see that. That's our operations administrator having some fun with our little frowny face. You can go ahead and click File a Complaint, and then you can fill out your information. It is a really self-explanatory form, but it also has some information about what you need, what information would be helpful. We also do maintain a confidential hotline that individuals can call and provide us information with. So that goes directly to me and to our general counsel, so individuals can do it that way.
So if it's confidential, I mean, so if Gary picks up the phone, calls the office, complains to some particular individual, that doesn't become public as far as me or the person on the other end, unless till you determine there's something to go forward with, correct?
That's correct, Gary. So in fact, a complaint, back in 2019, the legislature put the confidentiality in place for complaints, and a complaint stays confidential until there is a finding of an ethical violation. And so the individual who files the complaint can choose to remain confidential, so we don't even share their information with the individual against whom they filed a complaint, and they can keep that confidence, right? We maintain their confidence. And then let's say that there is no ethical finding, right? I believe it was at the Commission's last meeting, they made a finding of a non-violation, right? That there was a complaint that was brought forward, it was investigated, but there was no ethical violation, so that remains confidential.
I see. So if you complain against an individual and they actually find it wasn't, that name just stays confidential, because it doesn't put it out there, because people right away go, oh, if somebody made the accusation, somebody's covered something up. So keeping that makes total sense.
It does. Now the individual who, the respondent, right, under the most recent set of legislation in 2025, now the respondent, meaning the person against whom the complaint is filed, they can talk about it finally. We had First Amendment concerns about not allowing them to talk.
Makes total sense. We're going to have you back. So I appreciate you educating the viewers of Open Range. So we've been talking to Rebecca Binstock, Executive Director of the North Dakota Ethics Commission. I'm your host, Gary Emmett. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Dr. Jake Schmitz.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together, but you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. So I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza. Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
At Schatz Crossroads, we make 8 gallons of homemade ranch dressing every day, so you can smother your dinner salad with it, dip those crispy golden French fries in it, and dunk your breaded chicken strips. You can even cover your... Wait, no. You can't put ranch on steak. Or can you? Schatz Crossroads. Don't forget the ranch.
Since 1980, Circle Sanitation has been providing exceptional waste hauling services to every customer, big or small. Whether you just need reliable weekly pickup, roll-off containers for major projects at home or the construction site, or your needs are somewhere in between, Circle Sanitation has you covered. We're a locally owned family business and currently seeking dependable men and women to add to our team. Wages are competitive and benefits comprehensive. Call us today or visit circlesanitation.com.
What's going on, everybody? Dr. Jake Schmitz back with another Freedom Health Talk on Open Range. Excited to be here today. I was just talking with the producer off air, and we talked about me playing my ukulele and singing for you. I decided that I will save your ears. Unless, Mr. Producer, you want to sing while I play. Maybe we'll do that one time. No, all teasing aside, what we're going to talk about today. Thank you guys for having fun with me. I enjoy having fun. So thank you for having fun with me while we learn about health. What we're going to be talking about today is types of exercise and why you would want to do it. Now, here's the thing. I want to say this. As a person that is now in my 4th decade of life, I've been there for a couple of years now, and I tell people this, the older you get, the more energy and effort it takes to overcome inertia, meaning the desire or the willingness for me to not move, right? Because as humans, we are inherently lazy. It's the fact, right? You know this, I know this. We are inherently lazy. And also, we're a fallen creature that inherently makes bad decisions. That's just the way that it is. So it takes more effort, more intentionality, more energy in order to overcome that sloven desire of just not doing anything. And so that, by the way, that takes many forms. And what I mean by that is that while I will process it and say, I didn't exercise today because I know I just didn't feel like it, or I'm being lazy. Like, I'll say that a lot. I'll be like, hey, I'm being lazy today. I'll do it tomorrow. Like, before I move forward, give yourself some grace. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like, life is a long game, right? So as long as you're being intentional with it, you can take days off. Like, you don't have to be perfect. That said, I acknowledge when I'm being lazy. Like, I'm not going to make an excuse and say, whoa, I was just so busy doing, there are days like that. And generally speaking, I don't even attempt to do a workout or anything on those days. Like, I'm not even going to attempt it. If I know that my bandwidth is at 0, like, I know I have no leverage in my time, I'm not even going to put it out there in the universe. I'm not even going to say it, because I know that if I don't do it, I'll feel guilty about it. I'm like, no. Today's one of those days. I'm not going to do anything. That's okay. However, you have to increase the desire, the internal drive to overcome inertia. So I'm not talking about like that in that scenario. What I'm saying is, like, I see people all the time, and I mean all the time. As they age, they just do less and less. And there's always an excuse. There's always a reason. I'm thinking about one person in particular that came to my mind this morning when I was thinking about, what I would talk about today. And this person, who obviously I'm not going to share names, has been over the years, and I've been seeing this person for years, and over the years has been getting less and less healthy, but has been doing more and more around the house as far as like helping out and taking care of grandkids. Okay. It's not a coincidence that as that's been taking place, this person's been gaining more weight and getting, like I said, less healthy. And now there's more pain. My knees hurt more. My back hurts more. My neck, right? This is like a 1-to-1. guys and gals. So as we get more unhealthy, I've noticed it with myself. I went through a period where it was like, man, life kind of kicked me in the teeth. I did not work out. I did not eat well. I ended up putting on about 30 extra pounds. I didn't feel good about myself. My self-esteem was down. I'm just being honest, right? This happens. So for me, I was like, I had to look in the mirror finally and be like, dude, enough is enough. I'm done with the excuses. I'm done. Like, start doing something. Okay. So I'm going to be talking today, and I know that was a kind of a little bit longer intro to this, but I want you to understand you are not alone. If you're sitting there like, gosh, I just want to, but I'm having such a hard time forcing myself to do, you're not alone. I would argue that there's, what is there, 360 million people in this country? There's, if we say adults, 180 million adults in this country? I would say 180 million of them struggle to force themselves to work out, because I don't care who you are. I have met some really bizarre people in my life, believe me. I don't think any of them, nobody, 0% of people enjoy the pain that comes from working out. I don't think anybody does. I mean, I would argue the people that say, oh, I love working out. Like, no, you don't. You love how you feel. I love the feeling I get when I'm done. Like when I'm done with feeling like I'm gonna barf, my muscles are starting, like I enjoy that feeling. For me, that is great. I know that I put in the work. I know that I'm improving. I like that feeling. So that does not mean I like exercising. I want to be very clear. I like the feeling of improving. And because of that, in order to get this, what does that mean? That means I got to put in the work. Okay. So hopefully you understand that. If you're like, I haven't worked out in years. Okay, you know what? You're just like a lot of other adults. But guess what? When is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Right now. So I'm going to challenge you. Start. You got to start. And I'm going to give you, at the end of this, I'm going to give you a specific workout that anyone can do. Absolutely anyone can do this, because you can modify it for whatever you need. I challenged a guy the other day with this. This person is he's 65. He's on dialysis and been on dialysis for years. And he has just gotten so used to not doing anything, because dialysis, you sit for 4 hours. So and he does that 3 days a week. So he's used to not doing anything. And then he's so wore out from dialysis, all I hear is, well, I have no energy. I get it. But I guarantee if you do nothing, that's only going to get worse as you get older. At some point, you have to make the decision, enough is enough. Moving forward, I am no longer going to accept that excuse. You have to. Now, this is tough talk time, but I really want you to understand that fitness is a predictor of longevity, meaning if you are fit, you will live longer. Now, obviously, you could get struck by lightning, and then there's things like, heart attack. Like there are other things, right? I don't want to pretend like this is the only thing. There's a lot of things, but generally speaking, if I took an aggregate average of humans, if you are more fit, you live longer. And we saw that during COVID, especially. The people who were more fit prior to their COVID infection had no issues with COVID. The people who were unfit, who were diabetic, had blood sugar issues, they died at a dramatically higher rate. So that matters. Fitness matters if you want to live a long, healthy, and happy life. And not to mention, if you've got kids or grandkids and you want to be able to contribute to their life and not just be, I think about this and, love my dad. You see right up there. Dad passed away here 5.5 years ago, I think now, almost 6, coming up on 6 years ago. But I even think about the last, 5 years of his life. He would come to my house and he would sit on the couch and, sit on his iPad. There was no real meaningful connection with my kids. It just didn't happen. I think part of that was he just had accepted, I'm getting older. Well, yeah. But we've all seen that person who was in their 60s and 70s, overweight, oh, to get out of the chair. We've seen that. We've also seen people who were in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who were fit. They were up, they were down on the ground playing with their grandkids. There's nothing stopping you from being that person. It's all in the intentionality that you put into it. And specific as we center around exercise, because being fit, having muscle, developing muscle, that's extremely important for being able to live that life that you want to live. Not a single person on the planet is like, man, I cannot wait until I end up in a nursing home. No one says that. What do they say? I hope I don't. I don't want you to hope. That's not what I want. I want you to have hope, but I don't want you to be like something this important to like put it onto a coin flip. Like, I hope I make it. No, you can do it. Put your energy and effort into improving. And here's what I'm saying is it's a little bit. I'm not even talking about doing like, you don't got to go out there and do some crazy, 2-hour long exercise every single day. You don't have to do that. I know some people that do, and generally they get better results. But if you're doing nothing, I want you to do something. Now, there's two different types of exercise. There's cardiovascular, which is exactly what it sounds like. Cardiovascular, it's improving your heart and your lungs. Generally speaking, anything that makes you breathe hard. Now, here's a mistake that I see people make is they go for a walk. I'm not against going for walks. But if you just go for a walk and you're able to have a normal conversation while you walk, you're not working hard enough. You're really not getting anything out of it, except for maybe your legs a little bit. So what you need to do is do a brisk walk, right? And do something where it should be like, you don't have to be like huffing and puffing, but you should be like, I need to take a minute when I'm talking because you're breathing. That's cardiovascular. That's how we're improving. But if you're not doing that, you're not actually improving. You're kind of wasting your time. You might be working on your piece, and reducing stress, but you're not actually improving. So that's the first thing, right? You could do that 3 days a week, brisk walk, get your pulse up. You could check your pulse, right? You should get that up to 70, 80% of your max, which go on Google, go max heart rate, and you can figure all that out. I'm not going to do the math for you, right? You can do that. It's easy. The second thing, which is the most important thing, especially as we age, is strength training. Now, this is actually focusing on developing muscle. That muscle is what's going to help you live the life you want. Unfortunately, so many people go, it's getting harder to lift weights, or it's getting harder to, move around and do that strength training. So I'll just do more cardio. Nope, big bag of nope, because all that's going to do is it's going to make you lose muscle. Yeah, your heart might be a little bit better, but then you're still going to end up in a nursing home early because you don't have the muscle mass to support you. So here's the exercise I want you to do. 10 push-ups and 10 squats every day. That's it. And do that for 1 month and see what happens. Now, you might say, I can't do a push-up. Well, then go on your knees. You might say, I can't even get on the floor. Go to the wall. 10 against the wall. You might say, I can't do squats. Cool. Here's a chair. Just work on this. First thing you might have to do is hands on your knees, go up, and then sit back down. And do 10. 10 every single day. You will be amazed at the improvement. And by the way, you'll find out as you do it, it gets easier and easier, and then you can make it harder and harder. If you have any questions, email me. Throw my email up. But you can do it. I believe in you. All right, this is Dr. Jake Schmitz with another Freedom Health Talk on Open Range. Get after it, peeps. Love you.
Now you can have the personalized forecast at your fingertips when you need it. Beck's exclusive Weather Insight is information tailored to you. Radar, weather alerts, forecasts, and videos. Download the free Weather on Beck News app. Search your app store now.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. Join me on the trip and unearth the stories on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations of American citizens like our forefathers did.
We're the ladies of Another View. Join us at 9 a.m. weekday mornings.
We'll discuss issues you care about from local and national perspectives.
You'll hear unique stories from fellow North Dakotans, plus topics in the national spotlight.
Start your day off right with Ladies of Another View.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Beck TV and online at beck.news.